Hello everyone, now let us discuss about part 3 of centrifugation. Here we will be discussing the continuous horizontal centrifuge, supercentrifuge and conical disc centrifuge. Coming to continuous horizontal centrifuge, the principle is it is a sedimentation centrifuge. Continuous horizontal centrifuge is a sedimentation centrifuge. The separation is based on the difference in the densities of solid and liquid phases without a porous barrier. When slurry is introduced to the shaft of the screw element into conical bowl, sedimentation of solids takes place due to centrifugal action. And the solids are lifted up by the screw element while the liquid phase is continuously drained. That is how separation takes place. It is based upon the differences in the densities of solid and liquid phases. Coming to the construction, it consists of a cylindrical or conical bowl mounted horizontally and capable of rotating at 50 to 65 rps, revolutions per second. And the bowl has a diameter of about 0.5 meters. Within the bowl, a screw conveyor is placed which rotates in the same direction as the bowl, but at a slightly slower speed. A screw conveyor is placed which rotates in the same direction of the bowl but at a slightly slower speed. Here you can see this is the screw conveyor. This is the solid outlet and liquid outlet. And this is the inlet. Coming to working, the bowl and the screw conveyor are allowed to rotate using suitable power supply. The slurry is introduced to the shaft. The liquid moves into the wider portion of the bowl. Sedimentation of solid takes place due to centrifugal action. And the solids are lifted by the screw element while the liquid phase is continuously drained. And the solid material is carried towards outlet by the conveyor and is discharged continuously. The solids are conveyed to a dry beach where they get dried. Coming to the uses, horizontal continuous centrifuge is used when a high proportion of solids are present in the slurry. Coming to the advantages, continuous centrifuge is very flexible in operation. It is capable of handling solids as large as 10 to 15 millimeters or as small as few microns. It can be used for slurries with concentration ranging from 0.5 to 50%. Coming to the next type, that is supercentrifuge. Supercentrifuge is a continuous centrifuge used for separating two immiscible liquid phases. Supercentrifuge is a continuous centrifuge used for the separating two immiscible liquid phases. Here you can see the diagrammatic representation of supercentrifuge. This is the light phase of the liquid and this is the heavy phase of the liquid. This is motor and this is the air space, rotating bowl, and this is the feed through which the slurry enters. Coming to the principle, supercentrifuge is sedimentation centrifuge. The separation is based on the difference in the densities between two immiscible liquids. The centrifugation is done in the bowl of small centrifuge. During the centrifugation, the heavier liquid is thrown against the wall while the lighter liquid remains as an inner layer. And the two layers are simultaneously separated using modifier weights. Coming to the construction, it consists of a long hollow cylindrical bowl of small diameter. It is suspended from a flexible spindle at the top and guided at the bottom by loose wick bushing. It can be rotated on its longitudinal axis and the provision is made at the bottom for the feed inlet using pressure system. Two liquid outlets are provided at different heights at the top of the bowl for simultaneous recovery of the separated liquids using modifier weights. Coming to the working, the centrifuge is allowed to rotate on its longitudinal axis at the high frequency, usually about 2000 revolutions per minute, and with the help of a drive assembly. The feed is introduced from the bottom of the centrifuge using a pressure system. During the centrifugation, the two liquid phases separate based upon the differences in the densities. Heavier liquid is thrown against the wall while the lighter liquid forms an inner layer. And both liquids rise to the top of the vertical bowl. The liquid-liquid interface, the so-called neutral zone, is maintained by hydraulic balance. and the two layers are simultaneously separately removed from different heights through modified weights. Thus, the supercentrifuge can work for continuous separation of immiscible liquid phases. Coming to the uses, the supercentrifuge is used for separating liquid phase of emulsions in food and pharmaceuticals. Coming to the next centrifuge, it is conical disc centrifuge or D-level clarifier. As it is a clarifier, the solids or immiscible liquids are present in low concentrations in the feed. Complete clarification of the feed is possible by the centrifugal means. Here you can see the schematic representation of the conical disc centrifuge. This is an inlet. This is the outlet for lighter liquid and this is the outlet for heavier liquid. These are the conical discs. When it rotates, the heavier portion moves to the side walls and lighter portion goes inside. Here you can see this is the feed inlet. These are conical disc stack. Nozzle for thickened suspension discharge. Imperforated bowl. And this is the motor bowl drive. Coming to the principle, it is a sedimentation centrifuge. The separation is based on differences in the densities between the phases under the influence of centrifugal force. In this, number of cone-shaped plates are attached to a central shaft which has the provision for feed at different elevations. And during centrifugation, the dense solids are thrown outwards to the underside of the cone-shaped casing, while the lighter clarified liquid passes over the bowl and is recovered from the top of the cone. The dense solids are thrown towards the underside of the cone, whereas the lighter clarified liquid passes over the bowl and recovered from the top of the cone. Coming to the construction, it consists of shallow form of bowl containing a series of conical discs attached to the central shaft at different elevations. The discs are made up of thin sheet of metal or plastic separated by narrow spaces. Matching holes in the discs about halfway between the axis and the wall of the bowl form channel through which the liquid passes. And a concentric tube is placed around the central drive of the shaft. Coming to the working, centrifuge is allowed to rotate. The conical disc centrifuge is allowed to rotate. Low speed and short time of centrifugation is sufficient to give high degree of clarification. The feed is introduced to the concentric tube surrounding the shaft, and the feed flows down and enters into the spaces between the discs. During centrifugation, the liquid flows into the channels, holes that are present at the center of the discs and upward past the discs. And these substances move along the surfaces of the disc to limits of the inner and outer layer. And the solids and heavy liquids are thrown outwards and move underside of the discs. And then the solids deposit at the bottom of the cone, which is removed intermittently. Lighter liquid moves to the upper side of the discs and the liquid rises to the top and escapes from the outlet. Coming to the uses of conical disc centrifuge. Two immiscible liquids can be easily separated by the continuous process after liquid-liquid extraction, as in case of manufacture of antibiotics. Suspensions containing low concentration of solids can be separated quickly. Solids that are gelatinous or slimy can be separated by disc cone centrifuge. Such substances may plug the filter in the other methods. Starch is collected after washing and purification stages. In the manufacture of insulin, the liquor is clarified to remove the precipitated proteins. Next use is concentration of one fluid phase, as in the separation of cream from milk, and concentration of rubber latex. Removal of solids from lubricating solids, inks and beverages are possible. Coming to advantages, conical disc centrifuge are compact, occupying a very small space. The separating efficacy or efficiency is very high so that the particles are deposited very rapidly. It is suitable if the sediment is a fluid deposit or sludge. And by controlling the speed of rotations and rate of flow, particles are separated into two size fractions. These are the advantages of conical disc centrifuge. Coming to the disadvantages, the construction of a conical disc centrifuge is complicated, it is capacity limited, and it is not suitable if the sediment of solids form a hard cake. These are some of the listed disadvantages of conical disc centrifuge. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for further videos on pharmaceutical sciences and other related disciplines.